In this video, we're going to go over some beginner tips for Battle Aces. The closed beta recently ended, and I had recorded my matches. So now that the closed beta is over and I can't play, I just thought I'd review some of my games and kind of go over some things that I learned while playing the beta. We'll go over 3 games here. Today's topic is going to be on dealing with Wasps in the game. So the Wasp unit is basically like a Zergling from StarCraft. They're very fast, they're very tiny, they're very cheap, so you buy lots of them. You get 4 of them for 100 of the matter resource, which is the red resource. And in this game, they're already knocking on my door. My opponent went 1 base Wasp, so they chose not to expand and they chose not to tech either. So, and I had started the match by immediately expanding, which cost 400 of both resources. And once I recognize that he makes a single base, you know, I need to make sure that I don't tech, don't build another expansion. I need to just make units and nothing but units to defend it, basically. So I think the mistake that some people might make is they might choose to tech or something like that after having already expanded, but that would be even more resources dumped into not units, and they might just overwhelm you with the Wasps. So we already got past that point, but basically it's really important to also just not get completely surrounded by the Wasps. So you'll notice earlier I basically tucked my crabs back quite a bit, and then when they arrived, you know, then I kind of brought them out and made sure that they didn't get a 100% surround on my units. And they might be attacking my workers, it might not look so great, but considering that I have an expansion and they don't, you know, he'd really have to take out at least 16 workers for this to be beneficial for him, since I have 16 more workers than he does. And then it's really just a matter of time before my economy lead will just lead to victory, and he clearly knows that, so he just concedes after the rush doesn't work. So prior to this game, I had actually lost to a couple 1-base Wasp all-ins, even though, like, okay, I didn't do the extra tech, I didn't do any of the extra stuff, but just I got out micros. You know, my crabs got out of position, and he got these good surrounds, and he was able to just beat up my army just by a bit, and then kind of snowball with the Wasps at that point. So yeah, really tucking them back is really important, and making sure you don't get surrounded. So yeah, that game was before I had unlocked the Scorpions. At this point I've unlocked Scorpions. This game's going to look a little bit more normal. We both expanded immediately, and I think we both do our Foundry tech after that, and then I think he's going to take a third before I take my third. But basically, since I've got 2 bases, so since he at least expanded, I know that I'm not going to be completely outnumbered with the Wasp, so it's not quite as nerve-wracking maybe as game 1. I'm able to split up my Scorpions a little bit. You do want to make 2 separate control groups. I try to keep them a little bit closer, kind of when the game is super early, because the workers aren't even up yet at the natural. But once they are up, then I need to kind of keep them a little bit more separated, and try to avoid something like this, where, you know, maybe he gets the Wasps on top of my workers. You know, he's not even going to engage with my units because he just wants to take out workers. He can, you know, even if he loses some Wasps, he can get some value for that. Taking out 3 workers is still something. And at this point he's taken his third. I am teching for King Crab, so that's really the unit I'm relying on to help me break out and just absolutely crush Wasps. Yeah, I mean, again, in a lot of other matchups, I very much like to be out on the map and just doing active things, but Wasps and their ability to run by really does kind of pin you down. You do just kind of have to play defense until you get something that permits you to run out, which is the King Crab. Typically, I'll send 1 King Crab to my natural expansion like that, just to help with the run-bys. You know, here I've got 1 in my main base too, and this is like just kind of a little bit of minimalistic defense, just so that you can deflect some of these run-bys, or at least deal with them to some degree. He really did commit quite a bit of Wasps, so I need to make a couple more resources, a couple more reinforcements, send them there. But meanwhile, I've already wiped out his third expansion, which is great. And he is going mortars, and mortars can get really scary if you let them accumulate. But yeah, just the timing of this attack was just kind of just right. I took just enough to kind of overwhelm them. He maybe lost too many wasps in his run-bys and things like that. I am taking some of this down. You know, taking out the mortars they expand. So these are kind of like the siege tank unit, basically.
Units in combat.
As you can kind of see that, and that was a little bit of a mistake. I shouldn't have pulled my army quite all the way up. I mean, the second base there was almost dead anyway. I should have just hit the base itself. I do send a king crab back down, attacking the workers, which, again, it was so low up, I should have just knocked out the base itself. But it doesn't really matter at this point. I am kind of overwhelming them. Surprised he actually did go all the way to Tech 3 to get behemoths. But yeah, too little too late at this point. And that's GG. So that's the second game. So third game is going to be pretty similar. We both expand right away, and then, you know, because my opponent has Wasps, I'm going to stay on my base. I'm going to make those two little groups of Scorpions. So the red and the blue resource, the red resource, it accumulates at a 5-to-2 ratio, so you start out with 400 of each, and that permits you to immediately expand the moment the game starts. And then from there, you'll basically get 1,000 red and 400 blue. And so if you want to do like a tech right after that, that's going to be 400, 400. So you can spend 600 of the red on your initial units. So that basically means you're making exactly 12 Scorpions every single time before you tech. And they certainly could kind of poke in with the Wasps before you even tech. You know, and it's important not to freak out, not make units. It is really important to get that timing. Like right when you have 400, 400 again, right now here, immediately teching into Foundry, and then following this, now you need to keep making Scorpions, because if you get a little bit behind on that, and maybe you don't have enough at one base or the other, the Wasps could come in and surround you or swarm you, or get too much on top of your workers or something like that. So here he comes. Yep, he's getting a surround on like 2 of my groups. He does run out. He's already taken a third at this point. I'm trying to remember if he teched already or if he just went for the third before teching. And either way, I'm basically looking. Oh, he took a fourth. That's really greedy. You know, what I'm trying to do with my king crabs versus wasp players is I'm really looking for that timing attack. You know, I expand right at the beginning of the game. I start teching as soon as possible, and then I make sure I make sure I don't overspend the red, make sure I have an equal amount of red and blue right when the tech finishes, and then boom, just dump them all into crabs here. What is that, like 6 crabs? Maybe send 1 to the natural to defend against run-bys, and then just attack the third. Sometimes Wasp players, really good Wasp players, will, you know, they'll know that you did an attack move towards their third for the timing attack. They'll poke in their Wasps while you're walking over there. And while the attack move is active, your units will kind of get really distracted and start chasing them, which can break up your army and end up buying the opponent enough time to get their tech online, or whatever they need to do to defend. So just making sure your units don't get too distracted. Even like this situation, like he's, you know, kind of trying to pull some units back. You know, just making sure my units get regrouped a little bit is a good thing. I don't necessarily need to engage on the top. The 4th base was super greedy. You know, no reason not to just crush it right now. He's out of position. He's not able to defend it. Yeah, so pretty simple. I think one of the biggest things I wanted to emphasize is just putting that single crab at the natural is a pretty big thing. That was how I was losing to Wasps a bit until I realized I needed to be doing that. I just try to move out and I just get run by, or maybe I'd like try to make 2 control groups and then kind of like zone him or like push him back or something like that. And really the king crab it's a durable unit. It's got a lot of health. It does a little bit of splash. It's a single crab can really handle quite a few Wasps at your natural, which is really great. So let's see here. So I'm backing off. I think I'm just trying to regroup with my army here. I didn't want to fight in that tight corner because there just wasn't enough surface area for all the melee units to be fighting. And meanwhile, he has the gun bots behind that would be doing DPS, you know, on top of our melee units smashed into each other. So that would have been a bad fight for me to take. I decided to match him with the 3rd base of my own. And now we both have thirds, so fortunately, if we do take a fight, it'll be more so out in the open. So my melee units should get a decent amount of surface area. And yeah, I mean, it looks like a decent lineup for my opponent, but I just have so many more king crabs than he does that it just kind of overwhelms him at this point. And oh yeah, and there's the run by again, right? And that's a good play by him, right? Like, he's always got wasps on the ready. Anytime we take a fight or engage or doing something, trying to focus on the map, he's got those wasps ready to do a run by in case I'm not prepared for it, which I'm okay prepared. He's still taking out a couple of but yeah, that's another GG. So yeah, so anyway, that just kind of gives you a gist of how to handle wasps, at least from like a king crab player perspective. I'm sure there's, you know, completely different tactics and things you got to think about depending on what your deck buildup is. But yeah, I thought I'd share that. I hope you enjoyed and have a good one.